everyone. Welcome to the post-game analysis of the Junior National Scrabble Championships 2024, where we cover a series of videos where for the first time we experiment with live streaming, or in this case, post-analysis of recorded games at the top tables in this competition. Joining us today is Imeth de Silva, the current national champion of Sri Lanka, where we hope to do some post-game analysis without having seen these games live. Hello, Imad. How are you today?
Hi, Ramith. Thank you very much. Yeah, very exciting prospect. I mean, like you said, we are doing live streaming for the very first time. To give a bit of context about the background, this is the finals of the championship. So we had qualifiers from Galle, Colombo, Kandy, and Kurunegala, and the best players from each of these qualifiers have come forth to Colombo on the 29th of June to take part in the finals.
Yes, thank you, Imad. We certainly have to thank Mr. Denwan for his streaming setup, which looks pretty professional in our opinion compared to some of the other streaming setups done by Will Anderson and other Scrabble YouTubers. We would also like to say that the level of competition in this tournament is perhaps equally as high as any competition in Sri Lanka. Would you agree, Imad?
Yeah, Ramit, most definitely. I mean, all of the youth players, I mean, the majority of the youth players currently in Sri Lanka are, in fact, the top rated players in Sri Lanka. So we can expect a lot of complex and exciting games up ahead in this live stream series. Like you said, we are doing a post analysis and we have not seen the games yet. So let's hope to see a lot of exciting moves and strategies ahead. So first up, we have Adheesha Dissanayake against Imad Irshad. Adheesha seems to be starting off first. So Adheesha is currently the #1 rated player in Sri Lanka, and Imad Irshad also a member of the national team.
Indeed. And for his first turn, Adheesha seems to have drawn all vowels, which I'm sure Imad would agree that you cannot
That is
score
a
with a
terrible
rack like
direct.
this.
Very terrible
Yes.
direct. I mean, you can see 7 consonants. They are all are 1-pointers. It's going to be a no-brainer option here. Adheesha is going to go for an
Yes.
exchange straight away. And yes, rightly so. He's
Exchange
exchanging
6
6
from
dials.
Adheesha.
Yeah.
Already looking like a better draw for Adheesha this time, except
Yeah.
those are two
Indeed.
eyes. It's not that much better.
Yeah, the duplicated I kind of ruins the tie rack, and might I add the letter U as well. And unfortunately, we don't get to see Imadi's tie rack deck, but hey, we get to see Kavindu on stream. So
Yes,
right.
Kavindu, one of our top players. It's unclear whether Adheesha has 2 T's or 2 I's. And we see Imad playing from the rack, which we do not see. He makes play of U.
Okay, that's a decent start. I would say 12 points to Imad Irshad.
Yes. Getting rid of that U and the O, which we do not like all the time.
Yes, certainly.
Scoring a decent amount.
So let's see what Adheesha counters with as his first move. So in his first tie rack, he was cluttered with all vowels. Very unfortunate start to his game. Seems like he's got a response. Okay, Ramit, it seems like it's not an I, it's in fact a letter T.
It is 2 T's.
Yeah, and there goes the first bingo of Gatia, played by Adheesha.
Yes.
And we can see Imad's tie rack also cluttered with vowels. 6 vowels, where he has 3 E's, and he opts to play Itario. Kind of an interesting choice here, opening up the triple lane. What do you think, Ramit, about this move?
Indeed. Dumping his rack in hopes of getting a new one. But in the process, creates a very dangerous threat in the triple lane, giving his turn to Adheesha as well.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, he might have done a bit better by shifting Itario towards the upper T, where he can capture a bit more points, and he does not leave that O next to the threatening double letter lane. That might have been somewhat better in comparison.
But we see that Adheesha will punish him in a different way instead.
That is, I think, how many points? For 65 points. We'll have to wait and see whether Imad challenges this word. A very nice play by Adheesha.
Indeed. Very good spot by Adheesha. creating several scoring lanes with the E next to the triple, the S next to the double, and leaving the earlier scoring threat open. So it'll be curious to see how this all unfolds. We are not sure whether Imad is holding.
I think he's holding at the moment. He's considering whether to challenge the word or not. Yeah, he's taking his time. Yep, and there goes the challenge. Okay, and rosebuds appears to be a valid word. So right now, Adheesha is in a very confident lead, leading 141 to Imad's 26. So Imad has the triple lane open, and he had several high scoring tiles like the M and W, as I spotted early on. So very likely he'll be able to capture some points within this turn. So we'll have to wait and see what he decides to play here. He has several options. The triple lanes, like Ramith pointed out, the E just next to the double letter score is also open when Adheesha played rosebuds. So that remains an option as well for Imad. So either way, I'm pretty sure that he will get the triple lane. So it's just a matter of what word he will choose to play.
Yes. So he had the MMOND blank,
Yes.
and the seventh tile is another D, I think you said.
Okay, so Adheesha has a few high scoring clunky tiles here. I think WAWE, Huawei seems to be a pretty considerable option, but it is not a five-letter word. But if you are looking to shed both your W's, I think that might be the way to go about things. It's also possible
Indeed.
with the floating D with rosebuds, he might go for something like an ED ending, something like maybe Claude, or yeah, something like that might be a option to consider as well. Maybe Code or Claude, CAWED, or maybe CLAWED. Yep, I think he has spotted and he's forming up to play Claude here. So I think that's a pretty good option. Dumps off the
Yes,
extra W and the C, which you don't want early on in the game.
indeed. And he would leave himself with just WE, which is pretty balanced, while also keeping the board not very open, as it puts the C out into space. And however, it seems to be the best option for Adisha here, as it balances his rack quite well, as you might mention.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Claude gets 24 points, so that's decent enough. And with the EW, even though the W is not the greatest of bingo friendly tiles, there might be some high scoring options which are created underneath the overlapping of Claude. Maybe a four-letter word ending with EWS might be an option in the next turn. And with the C open on the triple lane as well. So interesting to see what Imad will play here. Since he has the J and the blank, I'm curious to see whether he might burn up the blank here for 50 odd points. So we'll have to wait and see what he will play here. Unfortunately, I cannot
Indeed.
see sixth tile at the moment. So right now, from what I gather, it's H, J, 2Ds, N, and a blank, with the seventh tile remaining a mystery.
Yes, indeed. We will see what this mystery tile is in a few moments, and it looks like
Right. That was a E.
E.
It's a very nice play. I think Jehu
Yes,
is easily the best option here.
very lovely looking play that scores a lot and gets rid of some not tiles that you don't want to keep, but tiles that take away from bingo chances like the J and the H.
Yeah, I would agree on that, Ramit. So right now the scores stand 165 to Adheesha and 124 to Imad. With the blank on Imad's tile rack, I would say things are looking slightly good for him, but he needs to get a few vowels, a couple of vowels in the list to help him complement that beautiful play of Jehu with a bingo. And as we can see, Adheesha's tile rack, there are no bingos available, a bit too heavy on the vowel side. So we might expect him to play something like a vowel dump. Something like WAI
Indeed.
seems like a pretty considerable option here if there's a good place to play that.
I would also be thinking about TAU IWI through the open U at the top. But it looks like Adheesha has spotted a nice high-scoring play, making a 3x3 square or a 4x3 square in this case,
Yeah,
scoring quite a lot. How many points would you think that is, Imad?
that is 45 points to Adheesha. But unfortunately, the rack lead
45.
is not the greatest. He's left with 2 duplicates. But since given that it scores 45 points, I think that was the correct call there. So a beautiful overlap by
Yes.
Adheesha. And that puts him into the lead 210 to Imad's 124.
Imad keeping us in suspense while the cameras are moving around trying to get a clear shot of the players. However, Imad's rack could be bingo friendly depending on what the third tile is. But no. He
Okay,
opts for a balancing move
yes.
while opening the board.
That's an interesting option. It's a bit of a risky option. I think personally I would have played Dan instead of and, so that I don't give an easy lane to the opponent. So we can expect Adheesha to overlap FA there just to get some easy points. So I think Dan in comparison would have been a better option there.
Yes. I think Imad might have been thinking that since he's down in the game, he needs to open some lanes, but he creates a juicy spot next to the A in the process, which could be the reason his opponent jumps on it.
Certainly the opening up kind of makes sense because there are a lot of letters that can come before and as a front hook. So in that logic, it makes sense. But yeah, I think Aditya might easily capture some points here. Maybe, yeah, something like FA
Indeed.
might be the way to go about things. It kind of blocks the top lane of the board. And yeah.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. So right after FA, Adisha does not completely obstruct the lane that Imad created, but he gets himself a comfortable 100-point lead, as Imad mentioned, and his rack does not seem to be that bad, but it is still away from a bingo.
So Imad really
Indeed.
needs to bounce back with a bingo here.
Yes, he's in danger of letting the game go out of his grasp. He does not find a bingo soon, and instead opts for the play of Dango. Is this a valid word, Imad?
Dango doesn't ring a bell. And I think Adisha is considering to challenge that word. Yeah, he's thinking about it. Maybe Imad was thinking about Django. You know, there's a software called
Yes.
Django, which is used to, that is spelled with DJNGO. Yep. So Adisha goes on to challenge Django. And I think, did we take a look at Imad's remaining tiles to see whether he had a bingo? I think I captured an N and an E.
Yes, he had a blank and an E. His seventh tile, I think we were unsure of. And it looks like Dango might be coming off.
So that's a big blow to Imad because he really needed that word to be valid.
Yes. And he had a pretty good rank, which is DANGEN blank, which is ADEGNN blank.
I can think of Rendang, RENDANG, which I think is a valid word. Do you know if RAND is a word? Because if so, he had a bingo.
RAND, right?
Yeah.
Imad?
Yes.
RAND, brand. I think that sounds pretty good to me.
Right.
So I would probably play that.
Yeah,
Yes, if I knew Ren,
which is I think a high probable word. Not sure about the meaning though, as is very common with 90% of the words.
Yes.
Yeah, and Adisha decides to play ratio. I think that's pretty good. Takes up the triple and the scoring opportunity away from Imad. Oh, he's taking it back. There's an interesting word here. Toy Toy. Wonder
Yes,
whether he
toy
might go for
toy.
that because that seems to be a really good option as well.
Hmm. Yes, getting rid of the more undesirable letters, although the TIRA combination or those set of tiles are tiles you want to keep. Having them duplicated, like Imeth is saying, is not what you would want. So Toy Toy offers, I think, the highest score as well as the best
Okay,
leave.
let's go with ratio.
But yes, we see Adheesha going with ratio instead. In terms of scoring spots, how good the spot do you think the spot Adisha just took was? It's not that easy to hit. Would you say, Imad?
Yes, with the tiles that Imad had at that point, it's not very easy to hit that. But okay, catch is a nice play. He can also play caged.
Yeah, indeed. And we do see Imad changing his mind.
Do you think there's a like it can impact playing caged or catch in this particular turn?
Yes, I think
Also.
because the D is such a good tile to end words with, it might offer Imad a bit more chances of hitting the triple next to it or making an 8-letter word.
And we see a nice, beautiful play by Adisha. Quiet comes down for 48 points. So he's quite comfortable with
Indeed,
in the lanes open as he has a really good lead into the game.
indeed. Playing quite makes Adisha quite comfortable.
Mhm.
He does also opt to keep the O instead of playing quite, perhaps because it synergizes well with the K. Um, we can see there's a spot for oik in the top right with the K on the triple. Perhaps Adisha is thinking about that spot.
Oh yeah,
Oik is a word, right, Imad?
yes, that seems to be a very nice spot for Adisha to score points. That would be an easy 30 plus points. And yeah, good
Indeed,
option to keep play quiet instead of coit because like you said, the O goes well with the K and that might, I think Adisha probably foresaw that and he was planning that ahead. So that was a good move by Adisha.
indeed. We see
Okay,
Imad getting a bit of higher scoring consonants and being unable to bingo. Uh, Once again, we can't see all 7 of his tiles, but it would seem pretty unlikely having the P, G, and the H, and the O. Oh, no, rather he didn't have the O, but he did have P, G, and H.
yeah, Imad's style rack seems to be a bit more on the consonant heavy side. So yeah, Pong comes down, but considerably not that many points. Okay, as Oik comes down by Adisha, he moves up to 343 points. And Imad is currently at 175. So he'll have to make a bingo pretty quick to have a chance into the game. And I think, yeah, looks like he has
Yes,
bingo.
Li Xin.
Leashing, okay.
Nice find by Imad. Um,
Who looks like he's
Maybe,
changing.
yes, he's changing his mind and playing Li Xin,
I like that
the
play.
other spot.
Yes. That opens up the board and currently he's trailing by.
Yes,
So yeah, that's a good play. Okay.
and he might have opted for flashing
Yep,
or slashing, perhaps.
flashing. I think it's probably an F because it won't make sense to keep a S open on the triple and someone on Imad's level will probably opt to go with something like flashing. I like that play
Indeed,
instead of his first initial reaction of playing leashing because this keeps the board more open and at this point that is what he requires because now he's trailing less than 100 points but he still needs a bingo to come back into the game and this seems to be a good option.
exactly. And just adding on to what you said, Imad, I absolutely agree. Playing flashing in this second spot, rather, not leashing as he initially wanted, leaves the board much more open as the D at the bottom is still open. And now there's a lane next to the S as well as these open floaters, as we call them, which would help Imad in making an 8-letter bingo.
Yeah, certainly.
So considerably better. Yes.
Interesting to say what Adheesha will play here. I think he might opt to play fix on the triple lane.
But infix might be an option.
But I mean, if you play N-Fix, it might open up an additional lane, which is something maybe
Oh,
Adheesha won't be
yes.
too keen on at this point.
Indeed, Adheesha seems to be closing down the board and scoring points while he can.
So currently,
Uh,
Adheesha has 370 points and Imad is trailing by 249. And do we see another bingo coming back?
Indeed, we do. The Loiners looks to be the
Loiners,
play.
very nice.
Very nice play by Mad. Once again, keeping the board a bit open.
Again, let us compliment that move of flashing once again, because he wouldn't have had a spot to play Eloina if he decided to initially play leashing at the bottom. So that was a good strategical play by Imad just to open up the board as so as to maximize his own chances of playing bingos. And right now, I would say he's well within reach. Adisha's at 370 points, while Imad is at 317. So currently, he's trailing by 53. So it's anyone's game at this point. I mean, sure, we are closing towards the end of the tile bag, but there's a blank and there's the Ised that is still remaining in the tile bag. So those will be really crucial. Whoever gets those tiles might have an upper hand into the game.
We see Adisha's rack being pretty good. Do you see any bingos, Imeth, especially
No,
with the E of caged?
not with this tile rack. Certainly no 7-letter words. The V and the duplicate
Yeah.
N makes it very difficult to form 7-letter words. In fact, for any tile rack. Even with the E, I don't suppose there are 7-letter words which can be played, although I can think of
Yes.
Enliven, Enlive,
Yes,
is a valid word.
exactly. Yes, the 6-letter enliven is the, or the 7-letter enliven, not using Adisha's 7-letter tiles. And instead, we see Adisha opting to use that spot,
Okay,
instead playing Enriven. Right.
Enriven. Okay, I knew Enliven, but wasn't sure about
Yes,
Enriven. That's a nice play.
yes,
I think
exactly.
we might see Imad probably opting for a challenge here. Rightly so, if he's
Indeed.
not sure of the word. And it seems like it's a valid word. So Adisha moves up to 399 and Imad's trailing on 317.
And we can maybe comment that these two are perhaps two of our more better dressed players, both wearing a shirt.
Yes, Ramith, you
Yeah,
can say that.
and we see the game coming quite close to the finish,
Okay,
but
this
we
is
see Imad
interesting.
having quite a good rack.
Yes, Imad has a really good tie rack. This is very interesting. Uh, and he has several bingos. Outsaid is
Yes,
one. And can you think of anything else? Astound is there. If I'm not
sound,
mistaken, that
indeed,
looks like a letter U.
exactly. Perhaps he might be looking through the L of flashing,
Hmm.
perhaps to end with the S, maybe out dials. Out dials is not a word. The board is upside down. Apologies, viewers, for that. And I believe Imad is thinking about his options right now. So far, he's played with quite good pace, so he must be having quite a lot of time left on the clock.
Maybe something like TUN makes sense because he has the final S. I think that would have been really
Oh
crucial
yes,
had he played that. Yeah, ton instead of
yes,
non.
I definitely agree with your analysis, Imad, because he has the S and the blank as well, making stun an easy hook, and it also gets rid of that U, uh, which, as you can see, as a result of Imad using the O, Adisha has punished him with a 45 plus play. Why do you think Imad played Don, Imad? Was it to make, was
I
it
think,
because he held the U for the U Don hook?
oh, right. I did not notice that. That is also a valid option. But here, if he wants to utilize the U-Don hook, he'll have to find a 7-letter word which is ending with OUT, which might not be as quite as frequent as starting with OUT. So I still think preferably playing TUN was the wise option there. But maybe he has plans of using the OUT hook and play a bingo likewise. Tractors, what can the blank
Imad,
mean?
Imad has indeed set up the Don hook for Udon and seems to be cashing it now. But while we await what exactly the blank is in his bingo,
Yeah, and Adheesha challenges it. So we maybe have to separately ask Imad what that word was all about. Okay, it seems to be a valid word. We'll certainly have to get
indeed,
that checked. Okay, the word is tractors. Interesting.
track with a T.
With a T, tractors. What do
A
you think
T.
that word means, Rami? I mean, that's a very beautiful play.
Tractors. Yes, very nice play, Imad, cashing in his setup. The
Yeah,
meaning of tractors, wow, that's a tough question.
like you said before, these youth players, they know a lot of words, and certainly tractors seems to be a bit of a complex word to find at this point. So kudos to Imad. And
Definitely. It's not easy finding words ending with US or having U at the as those ending letters. And Imad showcasing his knowledge.
currently, Adish is at 444 and Imad at 409. Unfortunately, it won't be enough for Imad, but I think he gave a good fight coming back with 3 bingos.
The only tires left in the bag which Imad took out was the V, which leaves Adisha plenty of space to get some points with his consonants and win this game quite comfortably.
Actually, interesting to see whether Imad is V trapped here. If that is the case, or if there's one place remaining for the V, Adisha might probably opt to find that place and block it out. I think from what
Indeed.
I gather, he is kind of V trapped, isn't he?
Yes. Upon my initial analysis of the board, yes, I do not see a play for the V, which I'm sure Adish would have tracked properly and would be analyzing himself right now.
Of all the
Yes,
tiles Imad could have got, he got the V.
indeed. And we see Adisha just casually not worrying about playing all of his consonants, instead maybe realizing that Imad cannot finish his turn and so would have to pass back. Adisha perhaps slow playing and building up his margin.
Yep, like you said, Adisha does not have to rush here because he has all the time in the world and he can basically do whatever he likes because practically Imad can't play anything at this point. So a very unfortunate ending. I thought that was a really good comeback coming with leashing and Eloiners and tractors and a desperate attempt at Veni, which is immediately challenged off. And I think Imad also realizes it from the smile of his face. Both of the players know it's kind of a desperate attempt, but we have to give points for that. I mean, veiny does sound like a word at times. There's veinous, but veiny is not there. It's, I think, only valid with the W. So Adisha immediately
Indeed.
challenging it, and yeah,
Yes.
it will be back to him.
Not bothering to pause for a few moments. Adisha has realized this long before that Imad cannot go out. And yes, we see Adisha will play off his tiles in the most high scoring fashion possible.
Interesting to see whether he might come up with any creative setups, but I don't think with the geometry of the board, such opportunities exist. Maybe OY at the top seems to be an option. Okay, he goes with lay instead, right?
Indeed, he opts to make a play using the Z in order to maximize his points, perhaps leaving the OY spot or rather the ratio, the spot next to ratio for next turn. And we see Imad does not bother pausing. He immediately passes his turn, which would explain his speedy play at the beginning.
Oh, right. A mistake by
Oh,
Aditya. We did not
mistake, a
see that.
slight mistake by Adisha.
Yeah. And I think he realizes that. I think he should have first played BA, N, and MA, allow Imad to pass off, and then finally play OB. So small error on Adisha's part, but
Yes,
in the end,
tiny error. It will It'll cost Adheesha about 10, 15 points, perhaps. But
Yep, somewhere close to 15 points. Yeah, final scores read 517 to Adheesha and 417 to Imad. So a comprehensive 100-point win on a very high-scoring game.
after practice, the game seemed quite close. Adheesha has managed to uh, get a 100-point win, which is quite impressive, showing his awareness of the board situation and of the remaining tiles, showcasing his skill, as well as maybe some star plays that we noticed were in Riven getting the extra points, Rosebuds, a difficult bingo with many consonants and quite low probability, I would imagine. What were the plays you liked, Imad?
I think Rosebud certainly captured my eyes. I mean, it just looked beautiful from the outset. Not many players would have noticed that right away. And I think the time Adheesha took to notice that word was very quick. And Enrivan as well was very impressive. Let us also compliment Imad on his 3 bingos out of 4 turns with flashing, Eloinus, and tractors, which brought him close at one point. So well played to both the players.
I totally agree, Imad. Perhaps the places Imad could have improved upon were plays such as Pong or the phony of Dango, which perhaps might have cost him the game. Uh, but he did not have bingos at both those instances.
I think when he played Dango, he had one available bingo, which was Rendang, if we just go on to that particular play. Yeah, when he
At
played
this
Dango, he
point,
had Rendang here, Rendang, which is somewhat of a tricky word to find, but that was perhaps the only available bingo here. And a valid point you brought up, Ramith, at the end was the fact that phoning out might have cost him the game. Something important to do when you're playing against good players is that you have to avoid getting challenged off at all costs, because that is really disadvantageous if you lose a turn. So typically I would advise on, like, when you're playing against good players, try to stick to words instead of, if it's not like a absolute 100% yes, then maybe you have to think on it, where better player might have a bit of an idea of whether that word exists or not. So you have to be very careful with your words when it comes to playing with good players. But yeah, certainly nice game to start up the live streaming with. So hopefully in the next few games we might see very interesting games like this as well moving forward.
yes. Uh, Thank you, Imad, for that analysis. And that will bring our analysis of this first game, or the first live streamed game, which is game number 4 of the finals. And we hope to bring some other analysis to you shortly.